Elias and Clara found what they called their forever home, a two-story Victorian with windows like wise old eyes and an ancient oak in the backyard that spread its limbs like a protective embrace. For them, it wasn't just brick and mortar, it was the vessel for a future they had meticulously planned. Little did they know, the foundations of that house rested not on earth, but on the fragile architecture of one man's mind. The first few weeks were idyllic. Unpacked boxes, laughter echoing in the empty halls, the smell of fresh paint mingling with Clara's perfume. It was she who felt it first. "Elias, did you hear that?" she asked one evening, her fork hovering over her plate. "A whisper," she said, "like wind through a crack, but with an almost human cadence." Elias heard nothing, but he kissed her forehead and promised to caulk the windows the next day. But the whispers didn't stop. They became a quiet third tenant. Elias started to hear them too. They were faint, indecipherable, but always there at the edge of hearing. Then came the moved objects. Clara's favorite coffee mug, which she always left to the right of the sink, would appear on the living room table. Elias's keys, which he swore he left on the hook by the door, would be found on the bottom step of the staircase. "We're just tired from the move," Elias would tell Clara, his voice trying for a firmness his heart didn't feel. That's all it is. The couple, however, was united in their growing fear. They clung to each other in the dark, listening to the floorboards creak upstairs when they were both in bed. They'd catch a glimpse, from the corner of an eye, of a dark shadow that would vanish when they turned. "It has no shape," Clara whispered one night, her body trembling in Elias's arms. "It's just absence." The presence in the house seemed to focus on Clara. Her belongings were the ones most disturbed. The locket her mother had given her went missing for a week, only to reappear on her pillow. Once, while she was showering, the bathroom door locked from the outside, and Elias had to break it down to free his panicked wife. Their fear was a living, breathing entity, a bond that pulled them even tighter against the encroaching darkness. "We have to do something," Elias declared, after finding one of Clara's sketches torn in half, the image of a sunflower field, her happy place, violently disfigured. They researched the house's history, finding nothing but a succession of normal families. No tragedy, no murder, no tortured soul to explain the torment. In desperation, they lined the windows and doors with salt. They burned sage until the house was thick with a cleansing smoke that only seemed to make the whispers sharpen into audible mockeries. The turning point came on a stormy night. The power went out, plunging the house into near total blackness, broken only by the flashes of lightning. A crash from the kitchen made them both jump. Armed with a flashlight and a fireplace poker, they crept downstairs. Every cabinet door was open, gaping like screaming mouths. In the center of the floor, the porcelain shards of the first dinner set they ever bought together were arranged in a bizarre pattern. And in the middle of the wreckage, a single word had been scratched into the hardwood floor: "Leave." But that wasn't what broke them. It was what happened next. Elias's flashlight flickered, and in its stuttering beam, they saw it. A tall, dark figure stood in the corner where no shadow should be. It moved not like a person, but like smoke coalescing. Clara screamed, a high, thin sound of pure terror. The figure drifted towards her. Elias acted on instinct, throwing himself between his wife and the apparition, brandishing the poker. "Stay away from her!" he roared into the nothingness. The figure passed through him, an icy cold that stole his breath, and went straight for Clara. Elias watched as his wife was lifted from the floor, her feet dangling helplessly. She struggled, her hands clawing at her own throat, as if being strangled by an invisible grip. Elias was screaming her name, beating at the air around her with the poker, feeling nothing but a deathly chill. "Clara, no!" he shrieked, his voice breaking with despair as he watched the life drain from her eyes. It was the sound of his own raw, animalistic screams that finally pierced the veil, and a neighbor's shouts, "Sir, are you okay? I'm calling the police." Reality collapsed on Elias not like a wave, but like the sudden removal of a structural support. The flashing red and blue lights painting the windows didn't illuminate a scene of supernatural battle. They illuminated a man alone in a trashed house. Open cabinets, broken porcelain, a fireplace poker on the floor. Two police officers entered, their guns drawn, but lowered them at the sight of Elias. He was on his knees, cradling the air, whispering Clara's name to an empty space. "She's gone," he sobbed to them. "The thing took her." One of the officers, an older woman with kind, weary eyes, knelt beside him. "Mr. Martins," she said softly, "where do you think your wife is?" The thing in the house took her," he insisted, looking at her with wild eyes. The officer sighed, a heavy sound of sorrow. "Mr. Martins, Elias, there's no one else here. You've been living in this house alone since you bought it 6 months ago." The words didn't make sense. "No, Clara, she was here with me. We fought it together." The officer's partner spoke into his radio. "Yeah, it's him. Looks like a full psychotic break." He turned to Elias. "Son, your wife, Clara Martins, she passed away in a car accident." A flash, the sound of twisting metal, the smell of gasoline, the face of a paramedic. The memory he had buried under layers of denial and pain came rushing back with the force of a freight train. The accident had happened a week before they were supposed to sign the papers. Clara had never even set foot inside it. Elias's world fell apart. The forever home, the laughter, the shared whispers, the fear that united them. None of it was real. The presence in the house wasn't a ghost. He was. The whispers, the moved objects, the shadowy figure, they were all pieces of a horrific tapestry his mind had woven to avoid the unbearable truth. He was completely and utterly alone. In the quiet, white institution where he now resides, Elias still talks to Clara. He tells her about their day, about the ghosts that still haunt them. And in his mind, she still answers, her love a balm to the terror he created himself. Because for Elias, the most terrifying reality of all isn't a house full of ghosts, but a world without her in it. This story was a presentation from Shadow Tales.